I want to tell you a story about my town, Waukau. Some months ago, a lonely man that grew up here returned after making his fortune in Hollywood. His mother had passed away and left him all of her belongings. We'd heard he stopped to visit her grave, but after a short time wandering, gave up trying to find her. He did find the house, and an unlocked door, taking up residence. He soon became a celebrity at the local establishments. His ideas appealed to people, mostly because he was famous and they weren't. Before long, he was encouraged to run for our town's mayor. He took to the task with vigor. He especially loved the fundraising and the willingness of the locals to throw him money. He held gun raffles, meat raffles, booze raffles. He sponsored race cars. He organized parades. He went bar to bar, describing his campaign platform to anyone who would listen. I obtained a copy of his notes and will read it for you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished citizens, and probably some undecided voters who stumbled into this bar by accident. Thank you all for being here today as I throw my hat into the ring and declare myself a candidate for the honorable position of mayor. Now, let me be honest with you right from the start. I am not a traditional politician. I'm just an average Joe who decided to give this whole political thing a shot because, hey, our forefathers thought the average Joes would govern our land, not full-time politicians. So, let's get to the heart of the matter. My campaign is based on 3 pillars that I guarantee will make this city great again, or at least give us a good laugh along the way: patriotism, religious faith, and having babies. Strap yourselves in, folks, because it's going to be a wild ride. First, patriotism. I know I just returned from making my fortune in the film business, but I've always loved this village, folks. It's the best shithole town in the world, believe me. And I'm going to make it even better. Now, how do we show patriotism? It's with our guns. Fortunately, my mother, God rest her soul, I'll get back to that soon, left me a supply of guns that could outfit a Virth hunting party. No offense about the Virth family, but they do miss their target a lot. Now, let's talk about religious faith. I'm a big believer in freedom of religion, as long as it's my religion. Just kidding. I haven't been to church in a long time. I do have some special meeting with God at times, usually when I'm in states that have legalized marijuana. But seriously, folks, we're going to have the most diverse range of religious symbols and traditions on display. Islam wants to put up towers to announce the call to prayer. They say it's only fair since Christians ring their bells as loud as they can. I'm not sure our quiet village is ready for Arabic blaring 5 times a day. I'm going to see if they might start with using our tornado siren alert system in place of the chanting. One thing you'll learn about me is how I'm good at finding the middle ground. Last but not least, let's talk about making babies. Now, I know what you're thinking: why is this guy even bringing up such a personal topic? Well, because there's no middle ground to those arguing about the having babies. If we do the making babies right, we won't have to worry about the having babies later. In conclusion, my fellow citizens, if you want a mayor who takes patriotism to the extreme, turns our city into a religious circus, and encourages baby making like there's no tomorrow, then I'm your guy. The campaign was going so well, changing wheelbarrows of gifts into cash. But then that interview started things skidding toward the episode. K9 bought a slot on the local radio station. He then arranged for the interview to be broadcast nationwide, although Waukau voters don't travel much outside the two nearest towns of Amro and Berlin. The Morning Colin Show, the one where you can offer items for sale or complain about something, is hosted by Betsy, and she agreed to moderate the interview. As they started, K9 complained about the size of his microphone compared to hers. She asked him, "Is big important to you?" K9 answered, "Well, it used to be. That's how I made a living." I'd heard later she threw him a fuzzy cover for his microphone. Apparently, he struggled with it like I'd been told he often did in his films when trying to cover a pointed object. Betsy said, "Let's start with how did you get that name, K9?" He replied that it was given to him one day on the playground at the Waukau school. A cartoon character named Martin the Martian was in Bugs Bunny cartoons, and he had a dog called K9 who liked to play in the dirt. I've been told his career has continued with this fascination for dirt. So the kids started calling him K9. He liked it. He said, "It's catchy, don't you think?" Betsy continued, "Your platform is patriotism, religious faith, and making babies." He replied, "Something everyone can agree on." Betsy commented, "It seems to me, you've connected guns and patriotism as the same thing." K9 stated, "Hey, I sponsor a trap shooting team. If you want to see a bunch of patriots, come to the Berlin Conservation Club on Thursday nights. I tell you, if an enemy ever comes at us with clay pigeons, we're ready." She snapped back, "When you consider guns more important than humans, I don't think that's patriotism." She said, "I'm not sure of your intentions with religious faith. Your success was in porn films. Rampant pornography has made it difficult for many young Christian men to form healthy relationships." A mother recently argued her 2 Christian daughters had 6 consecutive breakups with Christian men between them because of the men's inability to break out of their porn addiction. K9 mumbled, "That's a new one." Betsy restarted, "In your conversations with God." K9 cut in, "Churches also don't talk about guns, but God does." Betsy asked, "What does he say?" "These are private sessions according to K9. Betsy then asked, "On your third pillar, making babies, you have even less credibility." K9 retorted, "Well, let's say I've had plenty of making babies action across a number of venues, if you know what I mean, but that is true, I've never finished the job, so to speak." Betsy snipped, "I understand most of your venues were young boys." For once K9 didn't have much to say. Betsy walked out of the interview shouting, "Good luck, but I'm not fucking voting for you." K9 shouted, "Hey, you can't say that on the air." Then he said more things that were broadcast that I'm trying to forget. After the publicity from the Colin radio show, K9 expanded his campaign. There was hardly an event or moving vehicle that he did not touch. This required campaign funds. He organized town festivals that served as gambling halls and raked in the proceeds. His opponent accused K9 of running an illegal campaign filled with fraudulent practices. K9 arranged with a few local boys to give his opponent a genuine feeling of a fraudulent practice. It still was not enough. He was not winning over all the people. He began to resort to campaign promises. At a large rally, where he announced a crowd size, the largest ever, that numbered in the tens of thousands. Images did not support the claims. It turned out the whole thing was a massive cover for some shady fundraising. Waukau's campaign fraud inspector was at the event showcasing some of his treasures. He became suspicious when no one seemed to be in attendance. But K9 kept going behind a building and then reappearing. He decided to follow him. K9 had set up a donation station. White men seemed to come one after another, handing checks to K9. They seemed to know what exactly to do. These men were the leading business leaders of Waukau. Individuals could only give so much money. The fraud inspector wondered why they would want to fund K9. Some seemed to come through the line multiple times. Some seemed to be close relatives to each other, possibly brothers. The next day, the campaign fraud inspector paid a visit to K9. He had some questions that needed answering. He surprised K9, who then took some quick action to at least not be caught with loaded guns in the house. K9 couldn't stop the inspector from entering the house. The inspector rattled off many activities held without proper accounting methods. In his ranting, he caught the Packer toaster out of the corner of his eye. K9 encouraged him to try it out. He'd always wanted one, but wouldn't splurge on such an extravagance. The inspector could hardly wait for the toast to pop up with that Packer symbol burned into the bread. He became impatient. K9 encouraged him to take a closer look. He might see the toasting in real time. That's when the episode happened. Well, one problem was eliminated, but another took its place. K9 realized he had to get rid of any evidence. He was so brazen with his hold on the community, he felt fear would bother him about killing an adversary in his own house. Jay, Waukau's campaign fraud inspector, lived just on the other side of town. Maybe he could make it look like Jay did himself in. Once he packed up, some non-supporters might think something was amiss with all that blood. But he could disguise the whole thing as he just shot a deer. He had an old stuffed deer head laying around. He loaded up the body and headed for Jay's place. He didn't notice the trail of blood he left behind. Who would care that deer season was months away? It sounded like there was a crowd in a local bar, so he stopped for a drink and more campaigning. His followers have really fallen for the patriotism, favored religion, and making babies platform. He's best at explaining the making babies to older women. K9 finally decided to finish taking care of his problem. He headed to Jay's, but after looking around he couldn't find a suitable spot for a self-inflicted death. He headed to the field behind Jay's place, where he knew he'd been chopping hay. Now I can't really describe what happened next, but one can imagine it. When K9 returned home, he found a surprise. Somehow a part of Waukau's campaign fraud inspector was still in the house. In a panic, he hid the object. He never used that cabinet for anything anyway. He continued his campaigning like nothing happened. However, the talk of Jay's disappearance and then the conclusion he'd done himself in were the talk of the town. K9 chimed in with disbelief. Betsy, the investigative reporter from the local radio station, thought there was more to the story. Betsy studied the police report describing how a neighbor had found Jay's chopper running. And then a bloody mess in the wagon. But the forensics report had a glaring anomaly. There was no evidence of a head in the material collected from the wagon. She went to snoop around Jay's place. How could a person cut off their head and then still throw their body into the machine? Did that dog really run off with Jay's head? Where did he bury it? Betsy was about to leave, when she noticed a spot on the road. It looked like dried blood. And there seemed to be a trail leading back toward downtown. She followed the trail back to the downtown bar. Then to the next corner. The trail led directly to K9's back door. It didn't seem like anyone was home. The house, like most houses in Waukau, was open. Betsy was a bit hesitant. K9 was not known for the best hygiene in town. Betsy did not know what she should be looking for. She checked the hallway, but decided she didn't have the nerve to enter his bedroom. The place could really use a cleaning service. As she entered the kitchen, a glare caught her eye. She looked up to see the Waukau's campaign fraud inspector's badge stuck to the ceiling. Something had happened here. Instinctively, she opened the cabinets. Within the hour, the county sheriff helicoptered in. This sheriff is known as a no-nonsense enforcer and often take the law into his own hands. These hands easily arrested K9. That night, as the sheriff and his deputies decided what to do, K9 won the election for mayor. They decided they would keep him under house arrest. Our town, Waukau, has a bright future, having a mayor that can get away with murder.